Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Saturday edition video where I'm going to be featuring the Tier 8 British battleship, the Hawke. I will do a, what I normally call a Friday highlight, I will do on Monday. So yesterday we featured Illinois. Today I'm going to do the upgrade commander build on the Hawke. I'm just talking a little bit more about this ship. So this is along the newer line. This is the St. Vincent line they've introduced to the game. So let's just get right into it. So first off, we want to talk about the armor. So armor, you have 25mm on the bow and also on the stern. When you look at the armor belt side plating, it's all 32mm. And then the deck plating, same 32, and then the 25 on the front. So this line is not as durable as the standard British battleship line when you look at it as a whole. Now, when we go to look at the Citadel, that is the Citadel, ladies and gentlemen. So it is a definitely above waterline Citadel. You can easily get smashed from the side, especially if you're trying to turn and disengage, as these tend to have a larger turning circle radius because of the sheer length of the ship. And you can see, of course, that Citadel is going to stretch all the way from the rear main battery turret to the forward main battery turret. So you really have to be mindful in trying to angle as much as possible when you're able to. Otherwise, you will definitely get smashed. I mean, when you put the bow armor back on, as an example, they could easily go to punch through your bow or even your stern and Citadel you. The battle I'm going to feature tomorrow, on Monday, I Citadeled I was in a Hawke and I Citadeled an enemy Hawke with these guns through the butt. On the British battleships, they tend to have this flat butt, and so you can easily, instead of trying to shoot into the side, which is going to bounce, so he was something like this, I think, or maybe it was more like this. But I just shot into this flat bottom and Citadeled. So you can easily do that to an enemy Hawke. If you have enough caliber or even like a heavy cruiser to punch through in Citadel like that. So you're not the most armor capable. You eat a lot of pins, and you can easily be Citadeled if you're not conscious of that. So you really need to be mindful of that and how you position the ship. In terms of the gun armor, 406 on the front, 279 to 229, 184 on the back or top, and then 229 on the rear. So it's decent, but your side plating is the most vulnerable outside of the top. If you happen to land a shell knocking it out, or maybe like a German dive bomber with the AP bombs. Oh, one of the things I didn't talk about was what type of ship is this? Is it a sniper? Is it a brawling? Is it a mid-range battleship? And it's a mid-range battleship that gives you the ability to brawl because of your torpedoes, which you have 4 of. So if I click this little icon here, so these are torpedoes that fire, do a little squiggly line. They have 8-kilometer range. They're not the fastest, they only go 61 knots. So you can actually, if you end up pushing a ship that you cannot, like let's say torpedo you back, you can definitely take advantage of that with the Hawke. Now, let's see here. In terms of the ship as a whole, I was trying to remember. Yeah, anyhow. When we look at the modules, these are 406mm guns. So they have a 31-second reload, 180-degree turn time of 25 seconds, HE shell damage 5,950, AP shell damage 12,600. So you can definitely overmatch the bows of different ships, especially if you get into top tier matchmaking. Like your top tier versus tier 7s, tier 6 battleships, you can easily overmatch their bows. So important to take note with the Hawke with these guns. You do get an upgrade for the hull, hull A to hull B. You can see that your survivability, your A defense, and maneuverability all go up, meaning you have a 70,600 hit points. Excuse me, I'm trying to blend 2 words in together at once. And then, yeah, the A defense goes up. I mean, you get defensive A, but the A is sucks against tier 10 CVs, but you'll do decent against tier 8s, and you will do even better against tier 6s, of course. Your torpedoes, reload time, 80 seconds, so a minute, 20 seconds. So you get 2 per side, 4 in total. So you can fire 1 torpedo, maybe you hang on to one if you're pushing in or brawling, or if you are pushing right alongside an enemy ship, let all those 2 torpedoes fly loose, because they hit pretty decently, 15,867. And as you go up the line, these torpedoes hit even harder. They're like little nuclear warheads, it seems like. But as I said earlier, they're not so fast, only 61 knots. Your gunfire control system also gets an upgrade. So you're going to go from 17.1 to 18.8. You don't have access to spotter plane, so you're definitely going to want to pick this up naturally. So the hull first, and then the gunfire control system, just to give yourself overall better ratings with the survivability, aid, defense, and maneuverability. We'll take that off. Your maximum speed is 31 knots. With Sierra Mike flag, 32 knots, and then if you took the Brisk, you would be pushing 36.2 knots, I think, if I did the math. No, 35.2 knots, excuse me, because it's a 10%. So you can utilize Brisk on this line. It is a definite possibility. Now, in terms of your first upgrade slots, I recommend going for the main armaments modification 1. This is going to reduce the risk of your main battery and your torpedoes from becoming incapacitated by negative 20%. Main battery survivability, torpedo tube survivability plus 50%, main battery repair time, negative 20%, and torpedo tube repair time, negative 20%. You will have to tell me in the comments, because I'm not sure, if it's actually even possible to incapacitate these torpedoes, since they're literally within the hull of the ship. If you've incapacitated, or if you know it's possible to incapacitate torpedoes on this British battleship line, please let me know in the comments. But if I'm to guess, I'm going to say it's probably not possible, since they're not exterior, but I could definitely be mistaken, so please let me know in the comments if you do know. So yeah, you're just really keeping your main batteries more intact. You don't need this for the A, you don't need the magazine modification, because you can completely eliminate the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by taking the Juliet Charlie combat signal when playing randoms, ranked clan battles as an example. Operations, you don't need it because you can't detonate in ops with the ship, so you don't have to take Juliet Charlie combat signal for that, and I don't even take them for co-op battles. And then for the second slots, there's a few options. You can see I have the damage control system modification 1 mounted. This is reducing the risk of catching fire by negative 5%, risk of flooding, negative 3%. I lean more towards that one, not so much the engine protection. But if you're looking at the engine boost modification or the defensive A modification, these are both special upgrades. Now, I'd probably lean more towards the engine boost modification is what I would tell you to take. Now, I don't plan to play the Hawke very often. As other 2A battleships, I prefer much more so than the Hawke. Hawke is okay, it's decent, but it's not the ship that I would want to be taking into randoms or ranked or even clan battles for that matter, just my personal taste. So, but if I was for some reason going to play it more, I'd take the engine boost modification 1. You click on it, takes you into the armory. You can purchase these upgrades, I think it's for 12,750 coal. Negative 25% off, or 12,500, I don't remember. Full price, 17,000 coal. So if you yourself really like playing the Hawke, then I would probably recommend you picking up the engine boost modification 1. For the defensive AA, I don't recommend it for Hawke. Now for the third slot, we need to make mention, our turret turning time is 25 seconds, which is actually pretty good. Most times it's around 30 seconds for a battleship. Because you have the main battery modification 2, which would improve your main battery traverse speed. I have opted for the aiming systems modification 1 because it's improving my main battery, my maximum dispersion horizontally and maximum dispersion vertically. I'm getting a tighter shell grouping. So basically it's decreasing probably like 10 to 20 meters. Roughly, I can probably, if I remember to, throw them on the bottom of the screen here, what it is with this versus what it is without. So I appreciate having tighter shell groupings on my shell dispersion. That's the main reason I've taken this. You do get a slight buff to your torpedo tube traverse speed by plus 20%, and secondary battery firing range plus 5%, maximum secondary battery shell dispersion, negative 5%. But again, this isn't a line that you play for secondaries. You get two 113 and 152 millimeter guns for 6.9 kilometers, as it would be right now, and they have a pretty long reload time, especially the 152 millimeter guns. Yeah, so this would be number one. This would be number two pick. It just depends on your preference. For the fourth slot, you already have propulsion built into the Hawke. That's one of the notable things on this line. So what I recommend going for is the damage control system modification 2, as it's reducing your fire extinguishing time and your flooding recovery time. It means you get those floods and fires knocked out more quickly if you're not going to use your damage control party, or your damage control party is simply on cooldown. Alternatively, you could go for steering gears, but I recommend this first and foremost because it's going to be kind of harder to dodge shells when you're this tier 8 battleship. For the fifth slot, I recommend the Concealment System Modification 1. It's reducing your ship's detectability range by negative 10%, squadron detectability range negative 10%, dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship plus 5%. When you're looking at detectability range by sea, 11.8. That's kind of one of the things that this new British battleship line has going for it. I mean, the other one does as well, but I think this one a little bit more so, perhaps. And having some just nasty concealment, we can really catch cruisers off guard, especially as you go up for the Duncan and St. Vincent. So you can, if you go flying in with your engine boost on, just chugging along, you're going to make some people sweat in the game when the opportunities arise and allow you to do so with the Hawke. So I do recommend going for max concealment build here on this battleship. Now, in terms of the armaments, you have a 45% chance of starting fires on a target, which you can buff up with these two combat signals to a 47%, which I quite like doing. When the enemy's not really showing me any broadside and stuff, then I just switch to the HE. HE does really well, this British HE. So it's quite nice because, reasons of, you can overload the DCP repair party of an enemy battleship, especially if I see them DCP a fire, then I'm probably going to start singing some HE at them with Hawke because of having this 47% chance of starting fires. So don't sleep on this. It is good on this line. Armor piercing, these are 460mm guns, maximum damage 12,600. They can definitely hit hard when landing on broadside battleships, cruisers as an example. And your dispersion sigma is already decent with the Hawke. It's not bad by any means. It's not fantastic, but it's pretty good. So you can relatively depend on your salvos landing on somewhat relatively close to where you're aiming. Torpedoes, we've already talked about at length. Their detectability range, however, those are 1.3 kilometers. So they're not stealthy torpedoes. Also for the fact that they're 61 knot speed, so it kind of gives you some time if you're trying to avoid these torps. But they do still hit hard. So you try to hang on to these when you're maybe doing a drive-by on an enemy ship, or you're just catching a enemy ship player off guard completely. Now you have the depth charge airstrike, so you get 2 available flights, and number of aircraft in attacking flight is 1. And they drop 2 bombs for that each strike, and then the payload, so maximum bomb damage 4,200. And this has a range of 10 kilometers, which is nice that it's more than the 8 kilometers. So when I was playing against some submarines with one of my clanmates, I appreciated it being 10 kilometers versus 8 or 6. So I'm thankful that at least it's 10 kilometers. If it's 12, I'd feel spoiled. So I feel like 10's probably a good balance on this line. Now, in terms of your damage control party, with some of the commander build options that we have here on our Nelson as your lane girl, we have 15-second consumable action time. Our reload time is 77.6 seconds because of having spacing the name of the skill. No, I don't know what I'm even talking about. I thought it was because I had emergency repair experts. Oh, sorry, it's the emergency repair specialist. That's what I was trying to go for. So I've took that as my first point skill. So that's just helping get this back off cooldown that much quicker. Because you can also build into that by taking the November Foxtrot, which reduces the consumable preparation and reload time. So we mount that on. Now we're down to 73.7 seconds. So it's actually quite nice. Here you can see 58.2 seconds for the repair party cooldown time. So it's actually nice. It's not the 40-second, it's not the 80-second, but it's a 60-second. Again, take November Foxtrot, drops down to 55.3 seconds. So you get your heals relatively back online more quickly. And I'm guessing Wargaming did that just because this line can eat more damage, and you have a very vulnerable Citadel as a whole on this ship. Speaking of the repair party, HP per second plus 423. Take the India Delta combat signal. It's going to bump us up to 508. And you get 4 of these currently with our commander build. Because I think we can actually, yeah, we can add another one into that. But we'll get to that in a moment. In terms of the engine boost, you have an action time of 120 seconds. If you were to take the special upgrade in slot 2, engine boost modification 1, you could extend this by plus 30%. So then, yeah, you'd be 150 seconds if I'm doing the math correct off the top of my head. That sounds right, roughly speaking. And so that's quite nice, I think. If you enjoy Hawke, then you probably definitely want to be able to take that special upgrade and utilize the engine boost to maybe you have to disengage from a flank quickly, or you're pushing in on the enemy team and you want to utilize your torpedoes as an example, which you have to do so wisely. Reload time, 114 seconds because of November Foxtrot, otherwise 120 seconds. Defensive AA fire, continuous damage plus 50%, shell explosion plus 300%. Action time, 40 seconds. Reload time, 76 seconds. Again, because of the November Foxtrot combat signal. And you get 3 of these as a whole. So you do, because you only get 3, you want to utilize them well. You know, if you have a CV flying over you at the start of a game, you know, he's probably just mostly doing spotting unless he's just really coming for you. I tend to find that having these as the game progresses later on in the game is a bit better, in my opinion. If you're still dealing with the CV and there's less targets for him to focus on, and because you're a battleship, he's likely to focus on you. So that's my opinion there. Now, in terms of the combat signals, I would also take the India Yankee to reduce the fire extinguishing time, as well as the Juliet Yankee Bisotu, don't know how to pronounce it, negative 20% flooding recovery time. I like my ram flags. I definitely can catch some ships off guard. It's funny to ram a destroyer completely or a battleship and you still live and they're dead. And then you can go ahead and bump up your fire percent chance to that 46%. Otherwise, if you don't really care about the ram, you could do this, or if you don't care so much about the cooldown time, which I think is actually works out really well just because your heal's starting off at 60 seconds to come back off cooldown. I would probably just recommend something like this, or if you're on the weekend and you're seeing a lot of enemy CVs like we had in our Illinois game on Friday, then of course you can bump up your AA rating a little bit more with the Hawke, making it 81 versus without, it's probably 79, yeah. In terms of the commander build, so if you're wondering about the commander, I think, oh gosh, I can't remember where I get these commanders from. I don't remember if I just got her from one of the Azure Lane crates that I just randomly got, or if she came with the Nelson when you purchased the Nelson for, I think it was 375,000 free XP in the tech tree before Wargaming took it out. Or if it's probably maybe more likely it was in a collection that I picked up. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know one of you is probably more familiar with this than I am, and you can please share in the comments. So Wargaming does Azure Lane collaborations every now and then, and for funs and giggles, I like hearing these Japanese girls like scream in the back, you know, scream when you're firing your guns, or you get attacked, or you just completely wipe an enemy ship off the face of the earth, of the water. So it's just fun. So that's why I run them, just because it's different, basically. Now, in terms of commander build, I've messed around more with this line elsewhere, I think on the public test server. And so what I'm going for is basically a standard battleship survivability, durability build. So the first point, I'd recommend picking up the Emergency Repair Specialist. Your HE and your AP is really good, so I don't really see the need to take Gunfeeder. But to have your repair parties and damage control parties to come off cooldown that much quicker is quite nice in my opinion. For a 3-point commander, pick up Grease the Gears, main battery traverse speed plus 20%, so that's how we're able to have a 180-degree turn time of 25 seconds. For a 6-point commander, pick up the Adrenaline Rush, so this is going to increase your reload time for your main battery, torpedo tubes, secondary battery, and then you get a buff to your continuous AA damage slightly as your ship loses health. So it makes that reload time not so rough, because I didn't really say, it's 31-second reload time. So then you get down to 30, then into the 29 to 28. So I do appreciate having Adrenaline Rush on this line very much so. Now, the option's up to you. If you want to build for the full concealment first to get you down to that 11.8 with a 10-point commander, or take Fire Prevention Expert. For myself, I think what I ended up doing, because I originally was running this commander on the Nelson, I took the Fire Prevention Expert, which reduces the risk of catching fire by negative 10%. Maximum number of fires, -1. If you're a newer player, briefly allowing me to explain this to you, without fire prevention, you would have 4 fires on your ship, 1 on the bow, 1 on the stern, and 2 on your superstructure. Fire prevention takes, and rather than having just 2 fires on your superstructure, you only have 1. And you have a pretty sizable superstructure here on the Hawke. Most HE spammers are focusing the middle section of your ship, so this means you're taking less damage and you're improving your survivability. So definitely, I believe fire prevention is a must for the Hawke. Concealment, I believe, works out very well because of having that super nice concealment for reasons I discussed a little bit ago when we talked about the concealment in the 5th slot. And then your detectability by air is 10.5. And then for a 18-point commander, I'd say take the Emergency Repair Expert. So this is going to increase your damage control party action time by plus 10%. And you have unlimited damage control parties. Then you have repair party consumable. You're going to go from 4 to 5. And then the number of repair party consumable charges plus 1. So then you have 5 heals rather than just 4. And you get that 10% buff. So then 15 seconds turns into 16.5 seconds. 28 seconds turns into 30.8 seconds. So you're getting a little longer heal and being able to heal back more, and your damage control party is activated for an extra 1.5 seconds longer, in addition to having a 5th repair party. So I do recommend this, and also just because, it has less than a 60-second, or it's a 60-second standard cooldown time on the repair party, or as a whole. With what we have going on with our build so far, we brought it down to 55.3 seconds, which is nice. Then for your 21 points build, I recommend taking the basics of survivability. Module restoration time, negative 15%. Fire extinguishing time, negative 15%. Flooding recovery time, negative 15%. This is a just standard overall, very typical battleship build. For most battleships in the game. Alternatively, sometimes rather than Emergency Repair Specialist, you might see a gun feeder. But for the British battleships, they have really good HE and they have really good AP. So you're never really regretting so much firing either of them because they all give a pleasant surprise. They do well overall. Now, the other thing that you could do here is, rather than taking the basics of survivability, go ahead and pick up the Brisk, putting you to that 35.2 knots, I believe we discussed. And then that gives you a 1 point left. So then you could say, I want to increase my chances of starting fires. So then that gets you to the 46%. And if you really want to go for the fire build, then basically drop these two. Or, sorry, this is, it's really hard to say because I like the ram flag so much, but I could just say I just go for that, and then you pick this up, and now you're to your 48%. So you've gone from 45 to 46 and 47, 48 with 2 combat signals. So you can definitely be going for more of a fire build, utilizing the brisk to quickly get around the map, in addition to when you're using your engine boost. So let's say your brisk is activated, so I said that's a 10%. So 10% on top of this, that's the 35.2 knots. And then adding on engine boost, I'll pull up my faithful calculator here. So 35.2 times 0.8. No, I've done this wrong. 0.08. You'd be adding 2.8 seconds. So 35.2 plus 2.8. 38 knots is what you'd be getting out of your engine boost here. So you can really get around the map quickly in catching people off guard because of having that really good concealment. So really, this is an optimal way to go. Or if you want to be able to have a battleship commander that has that flexibility because you have the engine boost and you want to utilize brisk, then I would say probably go for this. Both of these are really tied in my mind for what to run here. I'm trying to utilize brisk a little bit more, and I tend to enjoy it. It is nice, and because you have such a good concealment, you're gonna actually get your money's worth out of brisk versus something Russian or a battleship that has really poor concealment, where you're not always going if you were to take this on a Massachusetts, I'd be like, why? Like, you have poor concealment and you want to brawl all the time, right? But here on Hawke, it makes sense to do so. So probably, maybe I lean more this way. So either way to go, I think these are the two top options to go. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If you have questions about something I didn't cover, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what you like and what you're running on your Hawke, and we'll catch you next time. So take care.